So, again, you're listening to New York City Visions. I'm your host and fellow New Yorker for the next 45 minutes, 40 minutes, like that. Well, for the full 55 minutes with fellow New Yorkers. Let's take that commercial break, and when we return, we'll be with Carol Ward. Roger will have left us, and I think, right? And we'll see you up in Washington. Richard, Roger, what is going on?
Roger built the house, but I'm rich now, and I'm
Roger
the Public Affairs Director of the house. Morris built the house.
Rich, Roger, okay. Rich Foster.
Right.
We're going to take the break. We'll be back in Washington's very office, where he spent much of his time during the Revolutionary
War during the Battle of Harlem Heights. Correct.
Yeah. Let's take that break. We're upstairs now with Carol Ward. Hi, Carol. Give us a little bit of your background and what you do here.
Oh, sure. I'm the Director of Education and Public Programming here at Morris-Jumel. My background is in museum education and art history. And I've been here for just over 3 years.
We're standing right here in George Washington's very office. This is where he plotted much of his strategy here. And as I understand from these windows, he can see both rivers. Explain this.
Sure. I think the really interesting thing about the mansion is that, yes, George Washington actually did sleep here in the fall of 1776, fought the Battle of Harlem Heights right around the house and the grounds. And in the office where we're standing right now, we have sort of a panoramic view based on the windows. And he could see all the way down to New York Harbor. He could see the East River and the Hudson River, and as far away as New Jersey, Staten Island, Long Island, and Connecticut.
What kind of, now this is his bed here? Is this his actual bed?
That is actually not his bed. It is a reproduction created by us, for us by craftspeople at Colonial Williamsburg, and it's an example of what the trundle bed would have looked like during the time that he stayed here.
Right. Now, the last time I was here first time in the mid-'80s.
Okay.
And I remember there are some pictures of Washington's in his youth and all that, and I was hoping to see some of that. Where are his pictures now? I know right now, for the summer anyway, you've got him on a laptop and the cell phone going and a container of coffee.
Yes, so every summer we participate in something called the Uptown Art Stroll, which is fabulous because local artists from Washington Heights and Inwood submit proposals for site-specific works. And right now we have something called George Washington's Facebook, and he's actually going to stick around till the new year. So if people come and visit the mansion, they'll see him here.
Okay. Now, Rich and I were speaking about the history of the building. Let's take it. I think 1810. We got up to 1810. Take us from 1810 now. Give us some of the.
Sure. So 1810, the Jumels buy the house. Stephen and Eliza Jumel. Stephen was a wealthy wine merchant and dry goods merchant, and he's originally from France, grows up in Haiti, and buys the house with Eliza in 1810. Stephen lives here until his death in 1832. On a pitchfork,
yeah.
Yes. He's supposedly helping a friend off a cart with big wooden wine barrels, and he somehow does fall and trip on that pitchfork. Eliza lives here until her death in 1865. After Stephen's death, she remarries about 8 months later to Aaron Burr, the gentleman who shot and kills Alexander Hamilton in that famous duel.
Right. Do we know? I know I mentioned to Rich if there was if there was a personal reason why they had the duel. There was something. Would it have been over Eliza?
You know what? That rumor has lasted for lots and lots of years, especially with people around the house. The main reason that they were fighting the duel was over political reasons and business reasons, and in fact, about 3 weeks prior to their duel, one of Hamilton's sons was actually killed in a duel by one of Burr's business partners. Uh-huh. So that's really the story behind that.
There is some modern day sound going on, and I don't think George could have been working under these conditions. What's going on out there? There's some renovated sound building. What's going on there?
Yeah, so what you're hearing in the background is a restoration project about our retaining wall. So we're redoing that. We're also redoing the path leading up to the mansion. The great thing is we're also redoing the entranceway to the mansion, so it will be accessible to families and visitors with special needs.
Who slept here? I know that you're saying Aaron Burr. Aaron Burr slept here.
Aaron Burr did sleep here.
Who are the famous Who are the famous sleepovers here?
Well, of course, you have George Washington, you have Aaron Burr. Before that, which I know Rich talked with you about, you have Roger and Mary Morris. The really big thing, not sleepover, but the dinner party was George Washington and his cabinet.
Right.
So inside the house, we did have John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Martha Washington, Abigail Adams, Alexander Hamilton, Henry Knox, so the big guns of the Revolution.
A lot of egos going on.
Well, dinner party, I'm sure, was very interesting that evening.
Was this a party house kind of thing? I mean, I know there were parties downstairs and balls downstairs. Was this? I'm sure this was like the center of New York.
Well, the interesting thing is it was outside of the environs of New York City for the time, so it was a large country house, country estate, both for the Morrises and for the Jumels, but both of those families were at the top of New York society, so definitely there would have been parties and balls, and you definitely wanted to be invited to any of their parties.
What have you heard about haunting here?
I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot about haunting. I've heard the rumors and the stories of Eliza appearing to school children, and
talk about that.
I guess that's the main story that everyone will tell you the moment that you walk in here, is that in the 60s and the 70s, supposedly Eliza made her presence known to groups of school children. I've worked here for over 3 years now, and I have not seen nor heard anything, so I cannot substantiate those rumors myself, unfortunately.
So you've been here for 3 or 4 years? For
3 years, yeah.
3 years. I had when I was on WMCA in the mid-'80s, I was on with Patrick Gray, and we're going to go, I want to go to the 3rd floor where the computers are now.
Sure.
You have your computers on. And can we walk there from here?
Yeah.
We're gonna walk there from here, and we're going to stroll along, and we're going to point out some highlights as we go. Okay, of course, all these doors are kind of partitioned off, so you can only see in from the outside. Carol is locking the door now. Okay, and while she's doing it, okay, so point out some of the highlights. We're passing by, well, the office is here. There's an office here.
Right, so one of the other reasons that Washington would have picked that room is because of the long hallway, so it's got more privacy from the other rooms on the 2nd floor. So obviously, if you're the general and you're planning your strategy in major battles, you want to be a little bit distanced from the other soldiers that are going to be in the house.
So that's, okay, so we're walking the corridor now, and
to come to sort of contemporary times, because I know we want to talk a little bit about the house as a museum, the 2nd floor space really is a way to showcase some of our permanent collections. So we always have changing exhibitions here that focus on one historical aspect of the house. So right now, we have an exhibit about New York being the first capital of the United States in the 1790s. And then this fall, we're actually going to have an exhibit on the French Revolution and the Jumels' relationship to the Napoleonic court.
Right. And so, of course, all these rooms are kind of, what do we call those? All those partitions, right?
Sure. There's the partitions that you're going to go up and have a chance.
You read history of each room.
You're going to read the history. They're each going to have a text panel, and the text panels will also tell you if there's anything special going on in the rooms. Again, in the fall, we're going to have an exhibit with period costumes inside the rooms. So we're going to have text panels that explain why certain costumes are in the different rooms. But you can get really close up and have a really careful look, especially Eliza Jumel's bedroom. That is all her furniture.
Let's take a look.
Beds she slept in and chairs that she would have sat in.
And this is where she was.
This is where she was, and actually where she died.
She died right in this room. And she died of?
Old age. She was 90. So.
90? Well, that'll do it.
Yeah, and that was really old for her.
Had a fireplace, and carpeting is new, of course. The rugs are new.
Yeah, the interesting thing is the wallpaper and the carpeting is all based on original samples that we found, so we know what it would have looked like.
And the chairs are all original?
They are.
Was Napoleon Bonaparte ever in this house?
No, Napoleon himself would have never been in the house, but the Jumels like to tell people that the bed that we're looking at right now was a gift from Napoleon to them, to the Jumels. Makes sense, it's the right time period. I don't know if Napoleon physically handed them the bed.
Here, take this bed. Okay, so that's her bedroom right here. Did they have separate bedrooms?
They did. So the red bedroom across the hall is actually Aaron Burr's bedroom, the way it would have looked when he lived here.
Okay, so we're looking at Aaron Burr's bedroom right now. Of course, this is not the bed. This is Is this his bed?
This is actually different than the George Washington situation. This is a bed original to the time period, but not his bed.
You don't know? Okay.
Yeah.
And he had his brandy there, I guess.
Yeah, and his chair, definitely. He was a lawyer, so he was going to definitely be doing a lot of business inside this room. The interesting thing about the decoration of this room, especially when you have school kids come, is that it's really interesting to think of it as a man's room in the 19th century. Again, the carpeting is based on things that we found, as is the wallpaper, but it's a little more floral than people would imagine a man's room is today.
And where would be Eliza Jumel's husband's room? Where would they have had shared the bedroom before she married?
No, she and Stephen probably would have had separate bedrooms still.
Okay, and where would his bedroom be likely to be? I know there's another room.
Probably this one.
In other words, you feel this was Stephen Jumel's bedroom here,
right?
And then when he slipped on a pitchfork and he was gone, Aaron Burr married Eliza Jumel, and he took over this room.
Right. The interesting thing about the house is
he sounds like a shady guy.
Is that because we interpret the different time periods, the question becomes sometimes where would George Washington have stayed, where would Eliza have stayed, and because we're interpreting George Washington's bedroom down the hall, obviously when Eliza stayed here and she lived here, it wasn't George Washington's bedroom, it was another bedroom that just would have been used by the family.
He has the smallest room, the smallest bedroom. If that's where he was sleeping, he had the smallest bedroom.
A lot of people are surprised by that. Again, it's his headquarters. It's not really his house, so he doesn't need as grand area as a lot of people would believe.
So he's the guest that came to, the man who came to war here, like to dinner.
Yeah, like the movie.
He moved in, he took over the room here, and he was separate. He had that corridor again. He was separate, and he was sort of like the Cato Kalin of his time.
Well, I don't know if I ever come back to that.
The house guest of the world. I mean,
sure, and it was his headquarters, so it was still
not Cato Kalin.
Yeah, it was still. It was probably still his space. I think most people would have believed it to be his space at the time.
Do you think he came in and commandeered it, or did they say, "Come on, George, hang out here"?
Well, the Morrises had left because, as British loyalists, they were concerned about the revolution. So Washington did take the house, but not from people. It was empty and abandoned at the time.
So he took the house over from British loyalists and to fight the British.
Right. And he knew of Roger and Mary. They were in the same social circle, so he knew of them.
Well, he was British.
Right.
Yeah, he was British.
Sure.
Yeah. So our first president was not an American citizen.
Right. Well, as was,
kind of.
Ben Franklin, and, because a lot of people did move over from England, or their ancestors did, yeah.
So he's the guy, he came to stay, he came to work here, and he
stays for about a month.
Only a month?
Only a month, and then he is forced to retreat and goes up to White Plains, and then the house becomes a British and Hessian headquarters. So
nice
British
place to retreat, White Plains.
Well, yeah, that's close to where I live, so I would agree with that.
Okay, so we'll move. We're going to go up to the third floor, and there's what bedroom is this?
This is Eliza's daughter. Her name is Mary Bowen. This is her room. About when she would have been early teenager, about 10 to 13 is probably what the room is set up to be. One of my favorite pieces in the whole house is in here. It is a metamorphic desk. It's in the center of the room.
Right, kind of, yeah, okay.
And the nice thing about that, and the really interesting thing about that, is that it's a desk, you can sit in it, but it's also on wheels, so you can roll it around. And the top part that we display as a desk can actually flip over and it becomes a table.
Right. Did she die in this room?
No, she gets married and moves out.
No children died in this house?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay, I'm trying to remember. Again, when I was here in the 80s, Patrick Groom was the
executive director?
Executive director, yeah. Okay, we're walking up the stairs now. We're going up to the third floor. Are we in the third floor now?
Yes, we're walking up to the third floor. Third floor would have been the attic space. In the historical days, and also slaves' quarters and servants' quarters.
Now, here's what I heard about this space right here from Patrick Groom, and I'm going to relate to you what happened when we got up to this space. There are computers here now. Well, I wanted to step out here. There are computers now. Supposedly on these stairs, a Hessian soldier was run through with a sword.
Okay.
Something happened on these stairs.
I mean, the stairs lead you up to the Widow's Walk. So if the soldiers were here and they needed a view, I mean, that is possible.
Right now.